Hello, I hope you're doing well. In the previous episode, we explored the need to know what will happen, that search for certainty that appears when the future has not yet taken a clear shape. Today, I would like us to go a little further, because uncertainty does not appear only when we do not know what will happen. It also appears when something we imagined is no longer possible, when a plan changes, when a door closes, when the path we were following changes direction without asking for our permission. We can spend months, or even years, building an idea of what our life will look like. We imagine where we will live, what kind of work we will do, which people will remain beside us, which goals we will achieve, and how long it will take us to reach them. These ideas give us direction. They help us get up each day and continue. They allow us to feel that our present efforts are leading us somewhere. That is why, when plans change, we do not always lose only one possibility. Sometimes, we also lose the story we had created around it. It is not only the ending of a relationship that hurts. It is also the knowledge that all the experiences we imagined sharing with that person may never happen. It is not only the loss of a job opportunity that hurts. We may also grieve the version of our life that we had connected to it. It is not only having to leave a place that hurts. It is also recognizing that it may never become the home we hoped it would be. And it is not only having to delay a goal that affects us. It may also hurt to feel that our life is not moving at the pace we imagined. When something like this happens, it is easy to believe that all our previous effort has lost its meaning. We wonder why we gave so much time to something that did not happen, as we hoped. We reconsider our decisions. We search for the exact moment when we might have made a mistake. And we look at the path we can no longer follow, as though it contained the only life that could ever have made us happy. However, the fact that a plan changes does not necessarily mean that everything before it was pointless. An experience may not take us to the expected destination and still transform us. It may teach us what we need, what we are no longer willing to accept, which boundaries we must protect, which abilities we possess, or which version of ourselves we no longer want to maintain. Sometimes, we measure the value of a process only by its final result. If we reach the goal, we believe the effort was worthwhile. If we do not, we feel that we wasted our time. But life does not always work so simply. Some paths do not reach the expected destination, but they prepare us for something we do not yet know. Some people do not remain in our lives, but they leave an important lesson behind. Some projects end, but awaken an ability that we will use later. And some decisions need to be changed, not because they were wrong when we made them, but because we or our circumstances have changed. Perhaps one of the greatest challenges is accepting that a plan may have made sense in the past, and no longer makes sense in the present. Not everything that ends was a mistake. Not everything we need to leave behind was a poor decision. We make choices with the information, resources, and awareness available to us at that moment. Then reality continues moving. New information appears. Our priorities change. We discover needs that we did not understand before. And something that once felt right may no longer fit the person we are becoming. Even so, accepting this change can be difficult, because we often associate commitment with remaining in the same direction forever. We think changing our minds demonstrates insecurity, that leaving a project means failing, that choosing another path invalidates everything we once believed. But commitment does not always mean staying loyal to a plan. Sometimes, it means staying loyal to what truly matters. Even when doing so requires us to change the plan. We can change our strategy without abandoning our purpose. We can acknowledge that something no longer works without denying the value it once had. We can say goodbye to a stage without feeling ashamed that we chose it. And we can begin again without believing that we are returning to the starting point. Because we never return to the exact beginning. We return with experience, with a different perspective, with more information about the world and about ourselves, perhaps with some wounds, but also with resources we did not possess before. Beginning again does not mean beginning from nothing. It means starting from the place where everything we have lived has left us. Even so, when our plans change, a difficult question appears. What do I do now? Until that moment, we had a structure. Even if the path was difficult, we knew where we wanted to go. But when that direction disappears, we may feel lost. We do not know what our next goal should be, which decision would be right, or how long it will take before we feel stable again. At times like these, we may not need to create a new plan for our entire life immediately. Perhaps we first need to recognize what has happened, to give ourselves space to accept that something important has changed, because adapting does not mean pretending that nothing affects us. It does not mean quickly finding a positive lesson so that we can avoid feeling the loss. Some changes need to be grieved. Some projects deserve a goodbye. Some expectations need to be released slowly. And imagined futures can also create grief, even when they never became real. We can understand rationally that we needed to change direction and still feel sad about what we left behind. We can know that a relationship could not continue and still miss what it meant to us. We can recognize that an opportunity was not right and still wish that it had worked. These emotions do not mean that we are making the wrong decision. They mean that what is changing mattered to us. We do not need to rush to transform every loss into growth. Some experiences first need to be felt. Only later, when enough distance exists, may we understand what they left within us. The difficulty appears when we confuse accepting an emotion with remaining trapped inside it. Accepting that a plan has changed does not mean giving up on creating another one. It means that we stop fighting against a reality that is already here. While all our energy is focused on recovering exactly what we imagined, it is difficult to notice what is still available. One route may have closed, but life has not stopped completely. There are still decisions, people, abilities, small movements, and possibilities that we cannot see while we continue looking only at the door that closed. This does not mean that every change is hiding something better. Sometimes we use that idea to reassure ourselves. Everything happens for a reason. Something better will come. One day, I will understand why this had to happen. Perhaps we will. But we cannot always be certain. Some changes are unfair. Some losses are not experiences we would ever choose. Some situations do not need to happen in order to teach us a lesson. We do not need to make everything beautiful before we can continue. We can recognize that something was painful, that it was not what we wanted, that we may never find a completely satisfying explanation, and still ask ourselves what we can do with the reality we have now. That question does not justify what happened. It returns part of our ability to act. We cannot change everything that has happened, but we can still decide how we want to respond. Perhaps adaptation begins there, not by immediately finding another certainty, but by recognizing reality without withdrawing from it. Sometimes, we will be able to rebuild the plan, change the dates, find another way to reach a similar goal, ask for help, learn a new skill, wait a little longer, or try again from a different position. At other times, we will have to accept that the destination has changed too. It will no longer be about finding another route to the same place. It will be about discovering where we want to go now. This difference matters. Some obstacles require persistence. Other changes require flexibility. Persisting while a possibility still exists can help us grow, but continuing indefinitely with something that can no longer be sustained may move us further away from our own lives. It is not always easy to distinguish between the two. That is why we can ask ourselves, do I still truly want this goal? Does this plan still represent my values? Or am I trying to protect an older version of myself? Do I need more patience? Or do I need to give myself permission to change direction? There is no universal answer, but asking these questions honestly may help us separate commitment from fear, because sometimes we do not remain on a path because we still believe in it. We remain because leaving would force us to enter the unknown, and what we know, even when it no longer serves us, can feel safer than a life we do not yet know how to imagine. Our plans also become part of our identity. We say, this is the profession I will have, this is the city where I will live, this is the person with whom I will share my future, this is the project that will prove who I am. For that reason, when a plan disappears, our understanding of ourselves may also become unsettled. If I am no longer the person moving towards that place, who am I now? Perhaps we cannot answer immediately, but we do not need to. There are periods when our identity needs to remain open, not because we have stopped being someone, but because we are reorganizing how we understand ourselves. We are more than the plans we manage to complete, more than the work we do, more than the relationships that remain, more than the timelines we created for reaching particular goals. Our plans express part of who we are, but they do not contain us completely. When they change, something may break, yet a space may also appear in which we can reconsider what we truly want. Perhaps we had continued moving forward through habit, because we were afraid of disappointing other people, because we needed to prove something, or because an old decision had become an obligation that we never questioned again. Then change interrupts our direction, and although we may initially see only the loss, it can also require us to listen to ourselves again, not to find a perfect answer, but to ask whether we are still walking towards a life that feels like our own. We may not be able to choose every change that arrives, but we can try not to abandon ourselves while we move through it. We can protect our routines when everything feels disorganized, speak to someone when uncertainty becomes too heavy, divide large decisions into smaller steps. Remember that we do not need to rebuild our entire life in a single day, and allow the new path to appear gradually. Often we want to replace the lost plan immediately. We need another date, another goal, another guarantee. But perhaps there is an in-between period that should not be rushed, a space between what has ended and what has not yet begun. It may feel uncomfortable, but it may also be necessary, because not every answer comes from thinking more. Some answers appear when we leave enough silence to recognize what has changed within us. When we observe what remains, what we miss, what we no longer want to recover, and what is beginning to awaken our curiosity. Plans give us direction, but flexibility allows us to continue living when that direction changes. This is not about abandoning our projects or living without commitment. It is about remembering that a plan should serve our life. Our life should not become trapped in service of a plan. We can take our dreams seriously without turning them into a prison. We can commit deeply to one direction while remaining willing to reconsider the path. We can desire something with all our strength and still accept that our peace cannot depend entirely on achieving it exactly as we imagined. Because living also means negotiating with the unexpected, building and rebuilding, closing some doors, discovering others, and learning that a detour does not always mean we are lost. Sometimes, it simply means that the real path is beginning to separate from the path we imagined. So today, I would like to leave you with a question. Is there a plan that has already changed in your life, but that you are still trying to keep alive because you do not know who you would be without it? You do not need to abandon it immediately. You do not need to find a new direction today either. Perhaps the first step is simply to look at it honestly, to recognize what still makes sense, accept what can no longer continue, and allow yourself to imagine that changing the plan does not mean giving up on your life. It may mean beginning to participate more consciously in the life you actually have. In the next episode, we will explore the fear of making the wrong decision, the pressure we feel when we believe that one single choice could determine our entire future. If this episode has brought you something valuable, you can support the project by liking the video and subscribing to the channel. Together we can continue building this space for reflection, awareness, and growth. Thank you for joining me. Take care, enjoy your day, and remember, a plan can change without everything you have experienced losing its value. Sometimes adapting does not mean giving up. It means learning to continue walking when life no longer looks exactly as we imagined. See you soon.